Peace. Cedric Muhammad, CEO, Hip-Hoppreneur. You know we had to turn the camera on for this one. I'm going to start by referring everyone, if you haven't already, check out my blog on why I'm saying we need to stop using the phrase the culture. I wrote it before any of this happened with Jay-Z and the NFL and the controversy. But if you read that blog on the hiphoppreneur.com, you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from on this. We are in a state of cultural hegemony, and we're the furthest thing from a political economy. And that is why we have not yet known what to ask for and have not yet been able to turn art, sports, and entertainment into community development. Recently, I was with a prominent white sports agent. And in private conversation, he said to me, "It is beyond me why the athletes just don't start their own league." This is a Caucasian gentleman. He phrased it like a rhetorical question. Why is it that none of the players in the NFL have talked about starting their own league? Now, I have mentioned this before. Those of you who are familiar with my work, out of all of the cries that we heard with kneeling, not kneeling, etc., I never saw a critical mass of any players with any standing, or really any group of players in the league, say we should strike for one game or we should start a summer league. I didn't even hear about a flag football league being started up. So that tells you that there's something in the psychology of the athlete that in one sense qualifies them for this moment, and in another it makes it difficult for them to be on the front lines. It's the same with hip hop, coming from another direction. So to really understand what's happening here and where we're going to end up going, which is going to be a good place, this is all going to work out for the best. It may get a little bumpy though between the hip hop community and some in the athletic world. There's a little tension there that's always been there. It kind of goes back to high school, you know, where the football guy was kind of always got more of the props, was a little more disconnected from the community because their sport required a little financial investment. There were leagues, there was travel. Then you had the basketball player, and I'll go through all of that in a future broadcast if you want me to. But there's a lot of psychology around personality types with this whole issue. So in Jay-Z, you have a hustler turned businessman. And if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, get my book, Entrepreneurial Secret Volume 2, where I talk about the 9 personality types in business, and we advise clients on how to build their team with the right personality types. So in Jay-Z, you have this hustler turned businessman. He's really not an entrepreneur in the classic sense of the term. He's more conservative than a risk taker at this stage in his career. In Colin Kaepernick, you have what we call a professional turned ideologue. He neither is really an entrepreneur, even though he took tremendous risk and made a sacrifice, and he's standing on that still. But if you notice, it has not evolved into an agenda, a series of demands. So both of them ended up really making arrangements with the establishment according to their value system and their personality type. Colin Kaepernick had a settlement with the league. I still don't know what the details of it are. Made a deal with Nike. It was a tremendously successful commercial deal. But Colin is not really an out front spokesperson. He did his part. He gave us the ultimate symbol, even though the idea of kneeling was not his idea, something people forget. But he did his part. He gave us the brand, the symbol, that iconic moment and imagery that'll last forever. Jay-Z always looks for a partner in what he does. Corporate partner, artistic partner. You're not going to see Jay-Z hold a press conference and take a stance on anything. It has to be contextualized in terms of art or an alliance or a business. It's a strength that has now become a weakness in this era of social media that has disintermediated Anyone that has relied on hierarchy or status or reverence, the more disconnected you are from the people, the harder it is for you to function in an environment like this. So these are two really beautiful brothers. They're gods. Don't get it twisted. Both of them are gods in their own right. But this is a difficult moment for them to navigate. Jay-Z, Harley on Twitter, he's not going to sit there and elaborate a 10-point program. He's going to get in the boardroom and do what he does. So in a way, he's a captive of his own success because his model is so top-down, corporate-driven. It's a very top-down, corporate-driven model. Kaepernick is just a free spirit. The moment was right. The spirit came through him. He had an epiphany. He did his thing. Neither one of them can take us to the next level, but together they can evolve us to the next stage. And that is simply their ability to convene everybody else that needs to be in the room. So that's what I'm looking for to see. Will the egos, will the envy and jealousy that has crept into the room and into the hearts of many of the participants allow everybody to do what should have been done at last Super Bowl in Atlanta, have a major summit on the issue of justice? There's no excuse for Kaepernick and Jay-Z together to not call for this moment. Everybody would come. The radical activists would come. The conservative businessmen would come. The feminists would come. The spiritual leaders would come. The elders would come. The youth would come. Now let's see what forces around them don't want that to happen. Because that's the obvious shot that both can call that gets Jay-Z out of the predicament that he's in with the people, and which helps Colin Kaepernick evolve this into something a little more substantive, which is really Jay-Z's critique, which has merit. But ain't nobody getting out of this in no boardroom cutting any more deals. That's done with. So I just want to wrap this up. If there's an interest in me going further in this, I will. I just want to run through a few points. And this deals with the science of negotiation. What gives a person power at a negotiating table is the ability to walk away from it with the other party knowing that you, the other side, can either live with no deal or you are willing and are able to give yourself what it is you're asking for or go somewhere else to get it. That's what I mean about none of the players calling for a flag football league or striking for one game or, a 3-city league in the summer. None of that. So when you say you want justice, you're never going to be able to get it until you're able to walk away or show that you have the capacity to reproduce or build a substitute for what it is that you're complaining about. This is one of the fatal flaws in what I've seen in how the NFL players are moving. So if justice is what Kaepernick and Jay-Z are after, they have never in a community setting defined what that looks like. What's the outcome? What's the result? What will justice look like for people other than athletes and entertainers and sports figures and celebrities? So what both of them have done has been exclusive, high-level, member-only conversations that they've engaged in without a full briefing to the masses who back both of them. Neither one of them make the money that they do without there being a fan base, a consumer base, a community that supported them. So as to what the deal is, we've never known. We still don't know what the arrangement is with Colin Kaepernick's settlement with the NFL. Maybe some of you do. I still don't know. And it's not clear what the people and what the community gain from this fight for justice. Both of them have made arrangements with the NFL, as I've said before. So is the goal a job? Now, seems to be the sticking point for a lot of people who want to say the movement failed because Colin Kaepernick did not get a job. Again, go back to what I said about the 9 personality types. A professional wants a job. And Colin Kaepernick, who I think is the more sympathetic of the two figures, did his part. Ultimately, he's a professional. He's a talent, God-given ability. He wants to express that. He's out of his element as a spokesperson. He's out of his element organizing in the community. although he can feed all of that, that's not at his core who he is. So if he gets his job, though, is that justice? I don't see how that's justice. I want him to have a job. I want to see him play. I'm an Eagles fan. He can at any moment. We already know Carson Wentz is going to get hurt. So the ultimate for me would be Colin Kaepernick gets signed to the Eagles and then takes us to the Super Bowl, wins the MVP. But I digress. A job ain't justice. Can't obtain justice as an employee. So is the goal ownership? Now this is a little more seductive. Well, if we own our own, then we can control and this, that. Not if what you own produces cash flow outside of the community. And at Hip-Hoppreneur, we talked about this in our Beyond Success, what community development does. All of the inputs into the community, all of the outflows. The stadium is downtown. So you'll produce some jobs, but ain't no stadium near Marcy Projects. Ain't no stadium near North Philly. And all the sports teams leaving from Oakland, let's not even deal with Oakland. We'll deal with that later. So ownership is not necessarily justice either. You can't own anything inside of someone else's franchise system. Jay-Z is an incredible inspiration to me, to many people, but him owning an NFL team, I'm serious. When you think about it, it's no different than your local McDonald's franchise owner. You don't own the trademarks, you don't own the intellectual property. It's someone else's brand. Shout out to McDonald's. I was a McDonald's Black History Maker, and for those who know about business, McDonald's is the ultimate turnkey business that you have to study if you want to build something systems based. But I digress. That's not really a power move. It's a great career move. It would be inspirational. I would support a team that Jay-Z owned in terms of sentiment. But that's not justice. Justice is a principle of fair dealing that comes from you having some level of autonomy, independence, sovereignty, and a self-interest. So, and production. Production, autonomy, sovereignty, and independence. When you sit at that negotiating table and you got all four of those things in your pocket, everything looks a lot different. So the problem is, as I wrote in our blog, our culture is a subculture rather than the basis of what it could be, which is an independent economy or a political economy. There's nothing autonomous about hip hop from a business sense. There's nothing autonomous about art and entertainment and sports yet. And at Hip-Hoppreneur, we're going to evolve that conversation over the next 18 months. So again, the solution is simple. It's unity, and it's a summit where everybody is welcome. Radical activists, conservative business people, feminist leaders, spiritual teachers, members of street organizations, youth, elders. People who are good at speaking and initiating are not always good at building and follow through. That's the critique to some degree of where the kneeling movement is. It sparked it. It gave us the brand. Then where's the follow through? People cutting deals left and right. Again, I'll go back and end where I started. Caucasian sports agent, very successful, asked me, it baffles me why the athletes won't start their own league. Now, if Jay-Z and Kaepernick can do something in that direction while still doing business with the NFL, it's fine. It's fine with me. But why is it that only my main man, Vince McMahon, can start the XFL or a competitor to the league? You see what I'm saying? There's nothing really independent about ownership and getting a job back. So again, and I'm serious, people laughing. I do want to hear from O.J. Simpson on all of this. That man endured 96 million views of the story of O.J. And I just out of curiosity, I want to know what O.J. thinks about this. So please let him know that I mentioned that. Again, the hiphoppreneur.com, in all seriousness, we want to evolve this conversation. If you want a consultation on the 9 personality types in business and how you can become more rooted in your community and still achieve commercial success in a way that allows you to deal with corporate partners people in the politically incorrect community. We deal with all of that. It's very important that your credibility lead as much as your art. Cedric Muhammad, see you soon. Turning the camera off.